Good morning, everyone. It gives us great joy to speak with you once again and to speak and connect with those who will be listening to this recording. This morning, we shall discuss karma and consciousness, both at the level of you as individuals, at the level of other individuals, and also at the level of the collective consciousness, and how all that works, and how it relates to you as light workers. We've explained a number of times over the past months and years how individual karma works, and we will briefly recap that now. Please, with this or any other thing we discuss or any aspect of Ascension you have questions about, please do ask those when we invite questions at the end of our message. Karma, as we use the word, refers to the energy of an individual's consciousness that is created by that individual over many lifetimes. And that energy is comprised of and affected by everything that an individual does, thinks, feels, believes, hopes, fears, says, and so on. Even ideas, even concepts, thoughts, are energy and up in an individual's consciousness. We've also described how one's consciousness, or one's karma in this context, affects them, their lives, future lives, that sort of thing. There is the saying used at places in the New Age and in various Eastern religions that goes something like, everything is a reflection of your own mind. Everything a human being perceives, believes, understands, and experiences is done so in accordance with and at the level of the energy, their karma, the energy or the karma that's within their consciousness. Now, an important aspect of this for the individual to understand, aside from those basics, is that whatever one's predominant energy is at any given moment in their consciousness, it is what determines what comes forward out of that consciousness to be added to one's perception, experience, etc. So, for example, a person who fairly habitually is positive and comes from a place of love and generosity and kindness and sharing, etc., that person will tend to pull out of their own consciousness similar energies. Everyone has everything in their karmically, and light workers are in better shape than most, and that you have cleaned up or worked through much of your negative karma, but there's still much in there. So a loving individual basically pulls forth that sort of energy out of their own karma, out of their consciousness, and that influences what they experience, how they experience things, their responses to things, and so on. Of course, the opposite is true. A being whose energy, whose perception is comprised to a large degree of fear, doubt, anger, etc., etc. All those beliefs that engender and reinforce separation, us versus them, nationalism, patriotism, we're right, they're wrong. All of these things are lower vibrational and, of course, pull forward out of an individual's consciousness the karma, or the energy, that is of a similar vibration. Now, this flow of energy that we've just described, how this all works in recent years, especially recent months, has become much more powerful and much more rapid. We've discussed this many times also. So whatever energy is predominant in your mind at any given moment will have a very rapid effect in what you're pulling forward out of your own consciousness, similar energies. Now, the collective consciousness of planet Earth, that's the collective energy of everything and everyone on the planet that is generating energy, every sentient being, but mostly humans, because humans are especially powerful creators. The mass or collective consciousness works along the same lines, according to the same laws of attraction and creation that individuals do. So each individual's belief system, values, hopes, fears, angers, etc., etc., all the love, all the attachment, all the joy, everything. As we said, even ideas, even concepts, as they are created, as they are experienced, they are also projected into the consciousness of Earth, of humanity. We are one. There's no separation. Despite the appearance of separation, planet Earth, indeed all of creation, but for now we'll talk about planet Earth, whatever one aspect of itself experiences and creates, the whole, to some degree or other, also experiences. So when an individual is generating a certain kind of energy, let's say you're driving down the highway and you see a billboard. It says, "Fight breast cancer. 10 million die each year. Do something." Well, everything about that is energy in some way and is projected into mass consciousness. All the people who drive by and see that, of course, they have differing reactions. Most of the reactions reinforce the belief and the energy that someone can even have breast cancer. Remember, all disease, all poverty, all lack, all lower vibrational experience, the aging process, in truth, do not exist. They exist in the third dimension because the belief systems in these things have created them. People age because over time, as their vibration became lower and lower and lower, and the belief in separation became ever greater, as the belief in time, linear time, became ever greater, there was created the belief of aging, which is now a rather solid part of the collective consciousness. Disease was created by the energies of fear and separation, and then reinforced constantly by all the perceptions and belief systems and fears surrounding them. So a billboard or a television ad that says fight breast cancer, and all of the people's response to it, moment by moment, firmly in the third dimension, recreates that energy of breast cancer. And the same is true of any other example you can think of. A similar message, by similar we simply mean it's put out to the masses, of love, of compassion, has the same effect, of course much more powerfully. The energy of love is exponentially more powerful than the energy of lower vibration. So each individual not only creates their own karma, creates the energy of their own consciousness, but moment by moment projects this into the collective consciousness of planet Earth and of humanity. And the way karma, this energy flow, works with the individual, as we said, whatever you are experiencing at any given moment in a strong way, especially if it's sustained, pulls forward similar energy out of your consciousness. The same is true from collective consciousness. So an individual who resides, say a light worker, or any person of higher vibration, in other words, any person who lives predominantly in accordance with unconditional love and joy and generosity and happiness, that person resonates with and draws from, even unconsciously. Most of this is done by most people without even knowing it, of course. It's just flow of energy. So the energy of the mass consciousness affects each individual in accordance to that individual's belief systems, hopes, fears, in accordance with the energy they're generating at any given moment. This can be one reason why certain habits are so hard to break, why certain addictions are hard to break. A person who is in the throes of practicing an addiction, alcoholism, drug addiction, smoking, or even the habit of treating absolutely everything, including their own emotions and thoughts, as real and then reacting to them, all of those are addictions. They're more difficult to overcome for people because once they are in that place of that lower vibrational addictive energy, to move past it, they must cease connecting with those addiction energies in the collective consciousness. Of course, it's very doable, it's very possible, but this is one reason why addicts and people who are so locked into something, a belief system, why they have such difficulty overcoming it. But of course, once an individual breaks that bond, once they change their own vibration to a higher level, and the energy of mass consciousness, which used to resonate with them at that level, now no longer can. Now, Now, another aspect of collective consciousness, this flow of energy, sometimes called karma, or the law of cause and effect, the energies that are projected into mass consciousness, especially the ones that tend to recreate and build upon themselves, can be looked upon as fuel, is one metaphor we could use. In other words, forces who are aware of the laws of karma and energy, the laws of attraction that are at work here, may use the energies in mass consciousness in either positive or negative ways. For a very long time, for thousands of years, there have been ascended beings, beings of very high consciousness, with the specific mission. These beings are not always human, by the way, and many times they're not. Beings who are stationed at strategic points around the planet, who tap in to the collective consciousness energies of love and unconditional love, peace, and take in these energies into their own higher ascended self, and then pour them forth back to the planet, back into mass consciousness. The pyramids used to perform this function. The pyramids in Egypt are much older than most realize. For thousands of years, the pyramids would tap into the energies of higher consciousness and reflect these back, project these back into mass consciousness in a way that brought higher vibration and balance to the planet. Of course, the pyramids have not functioned this way for a while. There needs to be enough unconditional love and positive energy in the mass consciousness to draw upon. And they fell into disuse for a while. The negative energies can also be used. There are many beings who are what we would call exceedingly dark. The Cabal or Illuminati is one example. As many of you know, the Cabal and its many minions expend a great deal of energy, and have for a very long time, in creating lower vibration upon the planet, including lower vibrational belief systems, especially fear, separation. And this is done in a calculating way because beings who are in lower vibration, whether from illness, which is not much of which is also created by such forces, beings who are sick or of low vibration for any reason, are much more susceptible to resonating with and pulling in the energies in collective consciousness that are similar, and then recreating it and projecting it back out. So much that this Cabal has done for a very long time feeds this. Obvious examples are mass media, quote-unquote terrorist events, the governmental responses to terrorist events, propaganda, but also chemically poisoning sources of water, making the very food that humans eat through organizations like Monsanto and those sort of things, fertilizer, factories dumping chemicals into the land. A major motivation behind these is to, once again, reduce the vibration of humanity, so humanity is less able, because of the lower vibration, to connect with energies of unconditional love and ascension, and stay malleable, stay at a lower vibration where they can be manipulated with more fear and belief systems, etc. We do not, most of you already know this to some degree, some do not. It is not our intention that you hear this information in a way that says, oh no, now I'm worried about that, because you know better. And as you know, we are leaving what the Buddhists and Hindus called Kali Yuga, an age of darkness, an age where the light, the energy of unconditional love and ascension, was so minute that the dark energies, the energies of separation, would recreate themselves, and that would be the fate of the planet for a while. And as most of you know, planet Earth has now entered, it has left that dark age, the age of Kali Yuga, and has now entered what's often called the Golden Age, or the Age of Ascension, the New Age. And most of you know some of the basics with that, of the ascension energies that have been pouring in from the great galactic sun, the great galactic center, for the past few years, especially recently, that have been raising the vibration of planet Earth and has changed the energy matrix of Earth from third dimensional to fifth, fourth, and third. Most of you are aware of some aspects of these things. It's old news to some of you, not so old to others of you. So now we come to you. Now we come to the part about light workers. There is an aspect of these ascension energies pouring into Earth. There is an aspect to the energies that are changing human DNA, making changes to the physical, mental, emotional energy structures of human beings, at least those of sufficiently high vibration to make some use of those energies or to be able to assimilate them. Over the past decades, especially the past few years, sometimes energies, very specific energies, are sent in to Earth and to those beings who can assimilate those energies to accomplish very specific purposes, some which we've just mentioned, transformation of DNA, etc., etc. Every once in a while, the energies of peace and unconditional love will be poured forth by specific entities for a while to take advantage of and cause transformation with the energies that have to do with peace on the planet, and that is happening right now. The Galactic Federation, there are many, many sources sending some aspect of divine unconditional love to Earth at various times. Yes, of course, the primary source, the great galactic center, As you know, Gaia, Mother Earth, is now surrounded by ascended civilizations from all over the galaxy. Sometimes they're referred to, some aspects are referred to as the Galactic Federation. So the Galactic Federation, with Archangel Michael and other ascended masters, and also an ascending civilization of Venus. Some of you know this. The civilization of Venus has been projecting unconditional love to planet Earth for a while now, once it reached a certain stage. At any rate, current energies that are being intensely focused on Earth right now that have to do with peace are being projected from the Galactic Federation, Archangel Michael, and Ascended Masters. The aim of this energy is to raise the vibration of those energies in the collective consciousness that have to do with peace and unconditional love, and all the related energies, positive and negative, all the beliefs in separation and the fear, etc., to transmute or raise the vibration of these specific energies. So every once in a while we mention to you, to light workers, we come back around to what is a light worker, what are the responsibilities of a light worker. As each day passes, as each moment passes, what higher vibrational beings do, think, feel, believe, is having ever greater impact at an ever increasing rate of speed and power upon the collective consciousness. Remember, your power as divine creators, as we've said many times, is exponentially greater than it's ever been. Now, this is true of everyone on Earth to some degree because of the higher vibrations. However, most humans create unconsciously. They don't know that whatever they think and do and feel and say and believe is projected instantly into the mass consciousness. You do know. So it's becoming ever more important for you, for light workers, to be mindful moment to moment, to be conscious creators moment to moment, to examine and put aside, as we discussed last week, belief systems. How many of you still believe in aging? How many get out of bed or get up from a sitting position they've been in for a few hours and notice the creaks and groans of the body and go, oh no, I'm still getting old. That instantly goes into the mass or collective consciousness and reinforces the belief in aging. Of course, the opposite is true. Remember, a conscious, loving being creates with much, much more power than an unconscious being. So each time you heal yourself, each time you put aside a belief system and say, I will not follow that anymore, I know better. Each moment that you generate compassion and unconditional love and pour it forth, especially with the understanding that we are one, with an understanding that you are changing the very fabric of planet Earth by doing this. You have a tremendous impact. there are so many levels that these changes, on which these changes are taking place. It is getting more and more difficult for dark beings to make use of negative energies, especially in certain parts of the globe. To come back to this just for a moment, beings of a certain awareness, dark or light, being able to make use of the energies of mass consciousness. Most wars, most acts of genocide, these were made possible by dark beings, whether we're talking about Adolf Hitler, who actually was very aware of energy and how to use it. But he didn't understand Creator, he didn't understand the ultimate connection, of course. This very dark being intentionally drew upon and created himself, manipulated his people into creating vast resources, if you will, of fear and hatred and anger and self-importance and separation. War could not exist without this particular dynamic. So know that the energies of planet Earth are rapidly approaching the time where such things will no longer be possible. But it's still happening. The predominance of unconditional love and peace as energies has not yet been established. So once again, this is where you come in. This is where light workers come in. We spoke of you holding the light and so on. Now is the time to create it, to create the energies of peace and unconditional love on a ceaseless basis and project these with intention into mass consciousness. And you are receiving the very specific energies to do that at this very moment as we speak. And there are beings, once again, around the planet, higher consciousness beings, who are very aware of this, and even now have taken up that sacred task of drawing upon these energies that you create and send into mass consciousness and pouring them forth back into the energy of mass consciousness. You see, dear ones, your path is not really your own. It is your path that will light the way. You are part in the ascension process of planet Earth, of Gaia, of humanity. It is very real, as we've explained a number of times. This is a free will planet. A certain aspect of humanity must welcome this process of ascension, of moving to a place of existing only in unconditional love, of moving to a place where there can no longer be any suffering of any type. There is still your part to be played. It is being played. The changes that have taken place on this planet humanity's rising to function in this multidimensional energy grid, the disempowering of dark forces, the cabal, and so on. The blossoming, coming into being, of new systems of all types, economic, governmental, social. All of these are in motion, and none of them would be possible without the light and the unconditional love and the intent of light workers, of high conscious beings who are participating. So remember, every belief system that you still hold, every brief segue into fear or doubt, every brief flaring up of anger, every concept of lack or poverty or fear of not having enough instantly is projected into collective consciousness and reinforced. And of course, every instance of unconditional love, especially that consciously projected, also goes into collective consciousness in a way that is thousands of times more powerful than the negative energies also being sent out. One consciously very high vibrational light worker creating unconditional love and pouring forth the energies of peace with conscious intent is worth thousands, will balance out and clear the energy of thousands of those beings who are still asleep. So remember this, each one of you matters in many ways, of course, but we mean here in this instance of creating the light, of creating the space and energy for humanity to move out of suffering. Know that we are so honored to be able to relate to you, to speak with you. Once again, we say to you, we wish that you could see yourselves as we see you. We wish you could see the unconditional love. Bursting to come forth, but many still slightly fettered, still slightly encumbered. But there, each of you, the radiance of 10,000 suns of unconditional love. So remember what you are. So that is our message for today. We will take questions if anyone has questions.
I have a question, please. Earlier you spoke about, I believe, addictions, and of course the more recognizable ones are the common things to know about, and smoking and drugs and things you mentioned. I think you also mentioned, was it belief systems can be an addiction?
Yes.
Perhaps even the lesser belief systems that we might not be so consciously aware of?
Yes, absolutely.
Could you help us understand some of those, perhaps?
Sure. Now understand addiction is a word. We're reduced to using words still in communicating with you, and words are imperfect. and have many different definitions according to the people who are hearing it and who are being addressed. So please keep that in mind.
Yes.
So, an example of a belief system that most people do not even question, they don't even understand it's a belief system, is the belief that most of you who move beyond, at least to some degree, is the belief in the reality of one's own thoughts and emotions. And this is moving beyond this belief is a key turning point often, is a milestone in one's personal spiritual path. One learns that the energy of one's consciousness, the example, we gave many examples just in this talk of how, let's say a human being has a habitual reaction to something that is negative. Say someone says something unkind to you and turns and walks away. And whatever your response to that is will be governed first by the level of your vibration, the level of your consciousness and awareness, but it will also be governed by the hard wiring you've established over hundreds of lifetimes and your reaction to that kind of thing. So someone who did not know better there'd be some feeling perhaps, let's say, of rejection, self-doubt. Now, instantly, that moment of self-doubt, that moment of feeling rejected, of feeling separate, of course rejection is not even possible at higher vibrations because we are one, but that just the brief instant of feeling rejected resonates with the energy of rejection in your consciousness, in your karma, pulls that forward, and that individual begins experiencing not only that instant where he or she defined that as rejection and thereby made it solid, they also begin experiencing the energy within their own consciousness that was put there before by countless similar situations. And then, having indulged or engaged in this process, make the energy recreated, projected back into their consciousness. And so the beliefs in separation and rejection, that habit of reaction, automatic reaction, all of this is reinforced in their own consciousness, and it's projected into the mass consciousness. The true nature of feelings and thoughts is that they are simply energy. Just energy. They have no significance until they're given significance. And of course, it works in the opposite way. Every time a person says, oh wait, they begin to have their reaction and they go, oh wait, that's just energy. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to recenter in my essence as a divine being. I'm going to be a being of divine love. Regardless how effective that may feel as you do it, we promise you each and every time you do it, that you are a divine creator and you are creating the power within yourself to do it again, to recognize it again, to change it again. And it really doesn't take too many times of doing that before you find yourself moving into a place of divine creator, divine conscious creator, and being the master of your own feelings and thoughts. Not the master of what arises, but the master of what is created out of it. So that's an example of what we'll call addiction to the illusion of the reality of one's own mind and emotions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I follow up with that?
Yes.
Your example of rejection, I think, is understandable. And a good example, following up on that, I can see where a moment of perhaps feeling rejected may bring that forward, as you mentioned. So the correct response would be not to do that and recognize not giving that energy.
Yes, and then if you have the mind to do it and the motivation to do it, center in the knowing. There are many ways, many things to do, many ways to do it that are high vibrational. One example would be, once again, center in the knowing of your own divine nature, and with intent, declare as a divine creator, I heal that. I transmute that karma, that energy, that habit, into absolute unconditional love and light, and I send that knowing. I send that power into the mass consciousness. I send it forth to all humans.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions? Very well. Once again, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being what you are.